Hi ladies, welcome back to the feminine universe. I'm always so happy to have you here. For some reason, some people think being feminine means being weak and passive and being walked all over. That couldn't be further from the truth. Part of being feminine is actually about having a strategy and dealing with your issues in a way that gets you results but doesn't leave you looking messy, so that you can continue your climb to the top uninterrupted and without your reputation being tarnished. Feminine strategy is also about realizing how and when to strategically tap into our masculine side and even our dark side, which is also known as our shadow side. And we are going to touch on all of that. We'll discuss how to maintain our femininity without being played or taken advantage of, and discuss a few strategies to keep us one step ahead. Some of these strategies are offensive or preventive and are meant to keep us out of certain situations. The others are more defensive or diagnostic and used to handle or treat problems when we get into them. We'll start from the nicest and easiest to execute, then progressively get more direct and a little more shadowy. This is the first installation, and we'll get progressively more advanced with each segment. So let's get started. The first strategy is to be generally kind. I know you might be thinking, girl, I thought you were teaching us how to be tough and not be played. How does being kind or soft get people not to mess with me? I will absolutely tell you, and remember, we're starting with the nicer strategies. There's a famous quote attributed to Zig Ziglar, which says, "Live in such a way that if someone were to speak badly about you, no one would believe them." Being kind lays the groundwork and sets this exact foundation before any problems arise. Because as strategic feminine women, we look ahead. We don't wait to be blindsided and scramble to tackle problems when they arise, but we make every effort to be prepared before they arise. And kindness will allow you to sidestep so many issues. Firstly, kindness will help you avoid problems altogether, because most sane people are not going to pick a fight with someone who is generally nice or kind to them and is on their good side. And since kindness will make you generally well liked, it also prevents you from being a target, because even toxic people who would happily start trouble with someone who's done nothing to them will think twice, knowing that you're well liked and that everyone will probably take your side. And if trouble does arise at some point, people will be willing to defend you, and you may not even end up having to engage in that battle yourself. I've been doing some research on bullying for something that I'm working on outside of YouTube, and what I've noticed in that research, and even if we just were to look back on middle school and high school days, we can also realize this. There are actually two major components about being a target. It's not just about the target being shy or quiet or quote unquote soft. It's also about them being somewhat of a loner or unknown or isolated. That way, the bully also knows that they won't have to answer to anyone for picking on that person. Think about the shy kid with no friends who just moved to the area versus a shy kid whose older brother is the star football player. You can see which one the bully is probably most likely to target. So if you're the shy, quiet, or soft type, this strategy will help you gain a few big brothers and big sisters who will come to your aid. I know we all have that one friend, or maybe we are that friend, that will go off if someone tries to push our more gentle or soft-spoken family and friends around. And at some point, we've also probably all said, "Hey, leave that girl alone. You know she doesn't even bother anyone." So being generally kind helps you avoid problems, but also protects you when they do pop up. You are a less likely target of drama, because drama queens know they won't really be believed or sided with against you. And if it does get there, people will be more likely to stick up for you. So please, please, please don't ever underestimate the power of kindness, not just as an incredible, positive, fulfilling lifestyle choice, but also as a lifestyle strategy. Because honestly, the best war is the one you never have to fight. The next strategy is going to be know who you're dealing with. I've said this once and I will say it a million times. One of the most beneficial things you can do for yourself is to learn the science of people. I will leave one of my favorite quotes from Balthazar Gracian on the screen. He has so many good ones. But when you understand people, you'll know which tactics to employ, because ultimately you deal with a dog differently than you deal with a snake. It never ceases to amaze me how many people sit around and play with scorpions and then want to do the surprised Pikachu face when they get stung. There are good people and there are bad people, and there are people who fluctuate depending on who they're dealing with, which is kind of where most people fall. Just like there are students who will always do their homework no matter what, there are some who will never do it, but most will do it for the teachers who check and skip it for the teachers who don't. So if you have boundaries, most people will respect them. If you don't have boundaries, most people will walk all over you. We have to know that there are people who live for credit and attention. There are people who are driven by nothing but their egos. There are people who talk really big or talk really tough, but are really soft on the inside. There are people who act like friends, but honey, at the slightest disagreement, they will spill your business like TMZ. There are users in this world. They will only know you when they need to borrow money or mysteriously reappear into your life when they see or hear about you doing well for yourself. There are people with big, kind hearts who mean really well, but who crumble under pressure and probably wouldn't be the safest people to leave your secrets with. A few ways to determine what kind of person a person is to first observe them if you're able to. How do they interact with people? Do they tell you the secrets of others who have confided in them? Are they rude to waitstaff or people they deem beneath them? What do other people say about them? Do they have a good reputation, or does everyone have something negative to say? Of course, rumors aren't always true, but it is a useful data point. Also, use your discernment. Use that feminine intuition. Even if everything looks good on paper about a person, but you get a bad vibe, trust that and keep your eyes peeled. If all else fails, caution is your best bet with everyone until you can get a better read on them. When you can decipher who you're dealing with, you'll have a way better idea on how to move and what to expect. So make sure you do everything in your power to know who you are dealing with and be able to classify them in some way. The next strategy I would recommend is to know your shadow side tactic. Even with all our best preventive tactics, at some point, someone will still try us, cross us, or at least do something we don't like. And at that point, there has to be some sort of defense or retaliation on our part. And we have to know what that tactic is for ourselves personally. For example, I know I'm not a nasty person. I just don't have it in me to stand there and berate someone with below the belt comments. And you guys hear my tiny voice. I couldn't yell in an intimidating way if I wanted to. I haven't gotten into a real back and forth since maybe middle school. But I can be very, very cold and withdrawn. I'm talking Ice Queen. I discovered that this was my shadow tactic by accident because my natural reaction to things that upset me or get me angry is to kind of shut down, pull away, and take time to process. But because it's such a drastic difference from who I usually am, people tend to want to scramble to fix it so things can go back to normal as quickly as possible. For some people, their shadow tactic is revenge. You are going to experience their wrath if you cross them. There is no water under the bridge. There will be no sweeping under rugs. In order for them to feel centered and balanced, they will have to get you back for any slight towards them. Some people will use their words to cut you down. Some will use manipulation. Whatever your shadow side tactic is, make sure it's effective for you and that you have the heart to carry it out. If you're going to say something salty to someone that maybe they deserve, but then apologize 5 seconds later because you feel bad about being so direct, then that's not the tactic for you. And when people experience this side of you, they will know they messed up because you're not usually that way. they'll have to acknowledge, even if it's just internally, that they are the ones who brought that out of you. I feel like tapping into our dark shadow side and going through the different shadow tactics could be a whole video. Let me know if you ladies would like to see that. That could be fun. And for the last strategy we'll go over today is to know when to respond with your actions instead of your words. Women sometimes get berated for being nags because sometimes we draw things out with words and overly expressing our feelings, which is normal because feminine energy tends to be feeling energy, which is very valuable when we're able to pick up the energy in the room, notice if two people have just been arguing, or if someone is hurting or in danger and can't quite verbalize it. Being able to have that feeling energy as well as being able to express our feelings is very important. But masculine energy tends to be more doing energy, so it's more about action. And in certain situations, I do think dipping into our masculine energy in that way can be beneficial. A woman I know was telling me about a situation where she was spending time with a man and he was on his phone for a majority of the time, not even on work calls or work texts, just on Instagram, liking pictures, not appreciating her time or presence at all whatsoever. In this kind of situation, I would not recommend sharing your feelings in a whole speech about I feel ignored and disrespected when you blah 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 blah. I'd say tap into action mode and dismiss yourself. You don't have to make a fuss about it. I actually think fussing takes away from this strategy. You have to keep it calm and pleasant. Something like, I think I'm gonna get going. We'll catch up later. And then you'll get the, why, what happened, why? And again, continuing in your calm, pleasant way, saying something like, it looks like you have some things to finish up. I have a couple of things I could be wrapping up as well. Let's circle back and reconnect when we can both really be present and really enjoy each other's company. Now you can decide later if it's even worth reconnecting or not, and he'll probably say something like, no, I'm putting the phone away, just stay. I'd say carry it through and leave. If he's interested in you, you'll hear from him and he'll do better next time. If he's not interested and doesn't try to make amends, you cut the cord early instead of wasting your time. That was an example in regards to men in a more romantic sense, but it also works in all sorts of environments. I had a indirect boss who was infamous for calling people after work hours. I'm not going to personally pull aside a boss and try to reprimand them and tell them it's inappropriate to call me after hours. The first time he did it, the next day he was like, oh, I called you. And I was like, yeah, I have so much going on after work that it's literally impossible for me to juggle work calls after 8 p.m. He did it twice again, and I let it go to voicemail again each time. And we never had that discussion again, and he just stopped doing it. When it's not effective and I responded with my actions as opposed to lecturing him about it, he got the hint on his own. If you're not being appreciated or treated well, dismiss yourself. If it's a sincere accident, sometimes, of course, talking it out is very important. And I'm not saying to live in this masculine energy, but maybe it could be a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split, so people know you're willing to act on things and not just always talk about things. So next time you're in a situation, think about whether it's better to respond from your feeling energy or a little more effective to respond from your more masculine doing energy, because sometimes people understand better when you show them rather than tell them. Those were just 4 strategies I think feminine women can employ in a preventive way or a defensive way to keep us out of certain situations or swiftly handle situations when they do occur. I'd love to know what you think, if you'd like to see more on strategy and potentially more on our dark shadow side. Until next time, ladies, stay feminine, don't be played, stay focused, and have fun.